Teleporters, all hands, man your battle signal.
Broadcasting live on the UnitedWest.org AM radio network and simulcasting on DirecTV, iHeartRadio, Roku, and the World Wide Web, this is Enemies of the State with Tom Trento.
Yeah, Thunderjet indeed, and we hope and we pray that the jets stay on the USS Theodore Roosevelt. We don't need a confrontation off of the Arabian Sea and the Gulf of Aden, off of Yemen. We don't need that. We have a battle group there, and we got Iranians on one side where we're going to be confronting them on the southern coast of Yemen, while we're assisting them in Iraq and working with them in Geneva. Somebody please explain to me the Obama foreign policy, national security doctrine that makes any sense.
Incoherent.
Incoherent, that's the term. We spent yesterday analyzing and deconstructing the mess, the Middle East mess that this president has created. And many of you ask, why do you guys spend so much time on the Middle East when you're national security and on the tiny little seemingly insignificant nation of Israel in the middle of the Middle East? And just by the mere fact of you asking that question disqualifies you from watching our show. So turn it off, please, right now, okay? You have to have some minimal level of understanding of the world around you to see that Israel is the eastern front of Western civilization. Are you asleep, dear viewer or listener, who questions why we focus on the Middle East so much? But I'll concede that some astute viewers and listeners may not be as aware of the everyday events going on around the globe. If you haven't noticed, we have insane Muslims attacking each other, Muslim on Muslim wars in so many countries that isn't funny. We certainly have that in the Levant, spreading out through Iraq and Syria. We got Hezbollah, we have Sunnis and Shias. And you know, if this were the Middle Ages where this stuff was contained geographically, due to a lack of transportation, a lack of communication, we could go back to sleep and, I don't know, play golf as many times as President Obama does. But we can't, because you can jump on a plane in New York City, travel to Istanbul, jump on a donkey or camel, and be on the Syrian front in the same day fighting against the West, and then get trained and come back to New York, or I don't know, to Minneapolis, or maybe to Paris and decide to blow up some churches, but get caught because you couldn't tell the business end of a gun from the other end and you shot yourself. Yes, that happened in Paris yesterday. Rest assured, Tom Trento here with the United West team, Enemies of the State, 10 minutes after 4 on the East Coast, WSBR Radio, 7:40 a.m. on the dial. When I say a.m., I'm not talking about 7:40 in the morning. I'm talking about the location of our show. On the left side of the dial, 7:40. On the a.m. side, not the FM side. And we're also in Tampa Bay on 1010 WHFS.
Hello, terrorist Shibley.
And we gotta thank all of you for supporting us. We are a small organization, small in terms of number of people, basically 10, 12 people on an everyday basis, and 30 or 40 more spread out around the world. But and our budget is minuscule compared to many of our good friends fighting this battle that do phenomenal work. We punch, as they say. We punch, as they say, way above our weight class, simply because we're skilled at being able to understand the issues. We have a skill at being able to communicate it, and not just the content, itself, but the accoutrements. We have built this studio thanks to the donations of many of you. We appreciate the success we are having. We literally hit on the radio side thousands of people every day. On the video side, over the course of a month, several 100,000 people with our television show and our other special productions. And these are not great numbers in light of, Rush Limbaugh and Glenn Beck. But we have found with our unique investigative approach, with our unique confrontational approach, you won't see Beck and God bless their work, or Rush Limbaugh going to the United States Capitol with a team of eclectic individuals walking and confronting the Muslim Brotherhood as they try to do their civilizational jihad in the United States Capitol. Isn't happening on our watch. It's the kind of stuff we do that hones our skills to have a more effective, a clear, a more crisp, a more sound message built upon the rock of the Judeo-Christian worldview. We make no apologies for that. In fact, we challenge others to have a better foundational basis upon which to critique the insanity out there and to bring solutions to the problems of the day. That's what we're all about. Thank you very much.
And
we're going to launch on a fundraising campaign. As good as we are as investigative individuals fighting Islamic jihad, as good as we are as analysts dealing with the zombies that are out there, it's that bad. Conversely, we are as fundraisers. We don't know how to raise money. We're terrible at it. By the grace of God, we probably would not exist, and the generosity of the donors. But we are going to try more formally to raise some money in the next few months. We have some folks that are going to help us do that. And we're considering a matching program where some people put up money and then our friends out there match it. We've got to raise a budget. For the rest of the year, we're going to get more equipment so that we can do some better stuff in our studio. We have a phenomenal studio. We're going to do better stuff. We've got to raise money for that. We've got to raise our operating expense budget for the rest of the year. And then we're very serious about considering opening a news bureau in the Eastern Front of Western civilization in Israel, based in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. And we have key people over there. We may be sending one of our folks from here over there to do some work. So more on that at a later date, but we got tremendous plans. And as you know, 566 days from today, November 8th is the election for the next president. According to the Electoral College today, if the election were today, Hillary Clinton is the president of the United States on the 9th of November, 2016.
Yes,
Tom,
are we dead
may
yet?
I nominate you to be the next president? I think you would be marvelous.
Hillary Clinton is the next president. I don't know.
Oh.
I may have to give up.
Hey,
my word.
I just want to mention one other thing.
What's
about
that?
The other stuff that we do is I can honestly say that I don't think too many people work out there actually ends up in the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, the level just below the Supreme Court, and probably will go to the Supreme Court.
All the way up, yeah.
And we have some direct impact on some very key people in the United States, and we know that they watch our stuff, and we know that we are influencing them, and we know that our work is being heard by significant people.
That's so key that we emphasize quality over quantity, though we're always interested in more and more people watching the show. The way you do that, subscribe. When you watch the videos, whether you watch it live at 4 o'clock every day or you pick it up a bit later, here's what Mark is talking about. We got raw footage from the Arab Fest in Dearborn, Michigan a couple of years ago, where a group of Christian evangelists trying to confront the Muslim on religious grounds, not typically what we do, not what we do at all. We fight these guys on national security grounds, but these were Christian evangelists at the Arab Fest in Dearborn, and they were literally attacked and stoned by Muslims.
In America.
In America, in Dearborn, Michigan, a key swing state.
Dearborn is not America.
Imam Abdul, excuse me, what did you
I
say?
said Dearborn is no longer part of America. It is
Okay,
it is an enclave of the filthy Shia outside of Detroit.
I can't argue with you. Imam Abdul is our resident Sunni Pakistani imam. He doesn't like the Shia from Lebanon that have migrated to Dearborn. They came over, they helped Henry Ford in the early days, and then they went jihad. And here you see jihad on our screen right now. The phenomenal law firm of David Yerushalami and Rob Muse put together a defense for this Christian group, and they have argued their case, and it's now at the 6th Circuit Court of Appeals. Case was on the 4th of March, 2015. Rob argued it effectively before en banc 15 judges. The decision will be handed down somewhere probably in the next 60 days. We will bring you that information. But the point is, our video work on many levels is viewed by decision makers, by people who make opinion, by legislators in various countries. And they value the quality of our research, they value the contacts we have, and they also enjoy the kind of entertainment we provide on a regular basis with our work. And that's why we are so extremely effective in whatever we do. And we don't, in fact, we don't even market ourselves properly. We should probably do more how wonderful we are, but we're so focused on getting the facts out today so people's lives can be saved and our civilization can be redeemed from the clutches of the leftists, the clutches of the jihadists. And that's what we're all about. And today we have a very special show, very, very special show for you. Because that little tiny country that sometimes disappears from maps that even we use.
Idiot!
Actually, it didn't disappear, just the name wasn't.
That little tiny country that sometimes doesn't appear. Let's throw that map back up. We had an astute viewer email me. This is a map we used yesterday when we delineated the potential confrontation between the U.S. battle group down below Yemen there at the bottom of your screen. And well, put the map back up for a second. And the battle group is right off Oman. There's 8 Iranian vessels resupplying, humanitarian needs, but we know because we have spies. They're hardware, and our special guest is going to help us understand that. But we used this map yesterday, and an astute viewer said, "Tom, what are you doing with a map that has Gaza?" And maybe the cursor can show Gaza there.
No, it can't.
Cursor can't do that.
Yep.
Gaza and the West Bank, but the label Israel isn't there. And we realized that either that was a dumb move on the map maker's part or intentional.
Actually, I slipped that one in.
Imam Abdullah was the map
maker. Here, use this
there.
graphic. Yeah.
I play trick on you.
We fired 20 producers over that. Actually, about 10 seconds before showtime, I go, "We need a map of the Middle East," and that's the one that popped up. We used it. We're well aware of the fact that little land is called
You said you wanted a simple
Israel.
Map of the Middle East. It's
Simple. Yeah, it was a little too simple. But, that's the battle that Jews fight, that Israelis fight, that Israel fights on a regular basis. The fact that... Excuse me. Is that the cough button? I'm fighting residual effects.
You have a cough button on your little mic. You do realize that.
Oh, it's in my pocket. Yeah, my pants are a little tighter these days than they were before we went to Israel. I'm working on that. But the map was very effective in explaining what we're doing. Anyway, special show today. In that little country, 6,000 something miles from here as the airplane flies. Today and tomorrow, 22, 23 April, are special days. We decided to, in this midweek, in the middle of us telling you about our trip, which was so vitally important and so successful, integrate it with national security current events, to focus on these two special days in Israel. We have a special guest to do that. Actually, he's probably not special anymore. When he's on so regularly, he kind of becomes one of the guys as opposed to
I think he's very special.
Do you? Let's bring him on to say hello, and then I want to read a letter from one of the folks that came on the trip to lay the groundwork for today's show. Let's bring on our not too special guest.
Are you going to go to the wall?
I'm going to go to the wall.
There, I'll let you cough and
You
let you
can
do
cough and walk at the same time.
Go ahead, Tom. I'm going to bring you back on air.
Before the show is probably not a good idea. Arie Egozie, our not so special guest. How you doing?
I'm fine. Good to see you again.
Yeah, I don't think you've been on the show since we've come back. Has he? Has he been on?
You were busy causing trouble in Washington.
Yes.
So you didn't have time for Israeli, but we are back.
You're
and
back.
you know that in half an hour from now, the Memorial Day will be over, and we will start our Independence Day celebrities. It's a very fast move from Memorial Day to Independence Day, but that's Israel. We are living on the fast track, and we have been living on a fast track since 48 and even before that. Today is a special Memorial Day for all the people that were killed in all the many wars that Israel fought during the years. But tomorrow is our Independence Day. In half an hour from now in Jerusalem, the official opening of these celebrations will be held on Mount Herzl. And from then on, we will celebrate. And but even in such a day, we don't forget the problems and the threats that we have to face every day.
All right, let me sort this out too. For our viewers and listeners who may not be as familiar as Arie is, an Israeli, with Israel's Memorial Day and Independence Day. Here in the United States, we have a Memorial Day, obviously, memorializing those who have given their life in battle. But in Israel, it's very interesting. The Memorial Day immediately precedes at sundown, and we're going to get into this in detail because it's so important. Why is it important? Well, when you talk about geopolitics of the Middle East, we see complete insanity all around. We see Islamic countries, by the dictates and the study of the United Nations, as being dysfunctional on many, many levels, on an academic level, on an economic level, on a sociological level. And you'd think with all the wealth, the Gulf state oil wealth, that this money would be used to elevate the Arab in particular, the Arab culture, Arab society. But we see this disconnect between a desire to be productive and a desire to follow the Sharia, to follow Islamic jihad, and to destroy others. And in the course of trying to destroy others, and in particular Israel eventually and the United States, there's self-destruction that necessarily occurs. So we think it's very important to shine a very bright light on this tiny country of stability, this sane country, just 7 million people surrounded by 330 million. And I don't care what area of expertise you may have or interest in, whether it's sociology or history or math, sciences, the hard sciences. When you look at Israel and the vast accomplishments that this little group of people have implemented since 1948, we're only talking about 1948. In one sense, if you want to compare current Israel with current Islam, 1400 years old, gets even more bizarre. But one of the reasons why Israel has been outstanding as a Western country in the midst of all this insanity is because of the fact it's founded upon its worldview, a distinctively Jewish worldview. We Christians came along, added a little piece to that, and now it's a Judeo-Christian worldview that brings in some of the Western philosophies of the Greeks and the Romans. But looking at that, we see that very brave men and women have given their lives in Israel to get the country from 1948. And if we had some pictures from 1948, maybe pictures from Life magazine, that we can show Arie and have him help us make the connection from 1948 to 2015 today, you'll see that the memorial that's taking place right now, 30 minutes from now, Israel will celebrate Independence Day. The way to understand that, ladies and gentlemen, is men and women gave their lives for the independence of the state of Israel on May 14th, 1948. Arie, I want you to take a look at some of these pictures that we got from Life magazine circa 1948. And we're going to show you 3 or 4, and then you kind of help our viewers and listeners get a sense as to what 1948 in Israel was like. Just take a look at these pictures. Damon, you may want to read the titles for the radio audience.
Okay. Jerusalem after its surrender, May 28th, 1948. This is from Time Life. Here we have Jewish families leaving the old city through Zion's Gate, June of 48. Egyptian plane shot down on Tel Aviv beach. Wow.
That's a Spitfire or a Hurricane. I can't tell which plane that is in the background.
Here we have sandbagging going on the streets of Tel Aviv.
If you can go to full screen on the pictures, if that's possible, I think that'd be better for the audience. There you go, yeah.
Here we have Arab refugees on a dock in Haifa. Here's a picture of a Sephardic rabbi discussing terms of surrender of the Jewish quarter in Jerusalem with Arab Legion soldiers. Little kid eating matzah.
This is all out of Time Life, actually. So.
Yeah, this is Time Life magazine, 1948. What's that one? Then we'll go to Arie.
It says Jewish soldiers being guarded by Arab soldiers after their surrender in Jerusalem. What?
All right, Arie. Let's put this into historical perspective here. And for our viewers and listeners, at 28 minutes after the hour, 28 minutes after 4 o'clock, Tom Trento, your host, Enemies of the State, name of the show. Today, we're taking a little different approach. We're focusing on very sensitive, very serious holidays or special days in Israel. On the 22nd, it is Memorial Day to memorialize those who've given their life for independence. Independence Day, the 23rd. In Israel, we have with us an Israeli who fought in many of the wars. And Arie, you saw a couple of those pictures from Time Life magazine, 1948. Help our audience understand what those pictures represent.
Those pictures represent the situation that was created after the UN has decided on creating a Jewish state, and then the first war, the Independence War, the War of Independence that Israel was forced to fight immediately after it was formed. And that was the first war that really formed the Israeli Defense Forces. And it's 67 years, but Israel has fought so many wars since then, in intervals of some years, a few months. Some of the wars were major ones, other ones were what we call operations. But more than 23,000 Israelis gave their lives to keep this country democratic since 48. And this Memorial Day, you should see at 11 o'clock today, when sirens sounded in Tel Aviv for 3 minutes, the country came to a standstill. On an El Al flight from Prague to Tel Aviv, at that same time, we have a video of that. People, Israelis on the plane, stood in the cabin for 3 minutes, because Israelis know that these people that gave their lives in all these wars, we can now live in a democratic country thanks to them. And it's again and again every year that we see the stories of people who were killed in 48, in 56, in 73. Lebanon War, the first Lebanon War, the second Lebanon War. Last year, Protective Edge in Gaza. It's a never-ending list of wars that was forced on Israel, a small country, as you described, that just want to live in peace, surrounded by enemies who want to kill every one of us. And for us, I think, I'm not religious, but the feelings in yesterday, today in the Memorial Day, and tomorrow, think like a religious man goes into a church or a synagogue. It's a special feeling, and I think that it unites the whole population of Israel. And there were pictures today that during the siren today at 11 o'clock Israeli time, Arabs in East Jerusalem shouted obscenities towards the soldiers that stood for 3 minutes in silence. I think that I don't even find the words to describe that. It's below any human standard to see them shouting Allahu Akbar and think they don't respect anyone. But that's the reality. That's the reality we will probably go on living in, surrounded by countries that want to kill all of us. And but Israel is very strong. And
well, hang on right there. I want to develop 1948 a little bit, because we have new listeners and viewers coming in, and they don't quite understand the recent history. Israel's 4,000 years old. It's been around for 4,000 years. It's been a continuous occupation, living in their own country for 4,000 years. There's been a remnant there through all the diaspora, through all the attacks, through all the crusades, through all the jihads, all of that. But it was reconstituted. The United Nations on May 14th, 1948. We're going to roll a little bit of video we have of Ben-Gurion, David Ben-Gurion on 1948. And I want you to take a minute to sketch out what life was like on that day and then immediately after in, say, Tel Aviv. Let's roll a little bit of this historic footage, amazing footage.
Well,
check
give
this
us
out.
a second here.
As it gets set up.
Here it comes.
But those pictures from Life magazine.
Here we go.
Now, you were a young guy
the
back
first
then, and but your folks were around. What was like? Here's David Ben-Gurion right here. Why don't you read that?
The captions. And grant the Jewish people an equal status of rights among other nations. So we gathered the members of the People's Council, representatives of the Jewish and Zionist movement, on the completion of the day of the British mandate over the land of Israel. And this is the day that, by virtue of our historical and natural right, and based on the United Nations General Assembly resolution, we declare the establishment of the Jewish state of Israel.
That was May 14, 1948, correct?
yes.
What led up to that? Just briefly, what led up to that pronouncement, and where did that take place? Was that in Jerusalem, Tel Aviv? Where did that
No,
meeting?
that was still in Tel Aviv, and the British mandate was controlling Israel, and the Israelis fought the British mandate. We had a few underground movement that fought with the British mandate. People were killed from both sides, and then the UN decided to vote for the formation of a Jewish state, and the decision was made. The vote was for the forming of a state, and immediately after that, the war of independence began, when Egypt and other countries attacked Israel, trying to terminate it. And this war has never been ended. It's going on in intervals for the last 67 years in different names, but it's the same war. Different types of weapons are being used now, but it's the same war that was never ended and just changed its forms. And unfortunately, I think that this war will continue, because now we are facing even greater threats from countries, not only those who are bordering Israel, but from countries like Iran and other countries. And in such a day, it puts a special focus on on the 67 years that passed, and the long way that Israel, as you said, that Israel, such a tiny country, made in these 67 years in all aspects, in science, in education. Of course, we have problems, but the achievements are enormous, And our job in Israel, without being too emotional, our job in Israel is to keep those achievements alive and to get some more achievements, because the world benefits from some of these achievements every day. So that's this day for Israelis.
And it's again, for our viewers and listeners, maybe some new ones coming in at 36 minutes after. Tom Trento, your host, WSBR Radio, 740 AM on your dial. 4 o'clock every day, East Coast folks. Send our show out. Once you watch it, send the link out, subscribe to it. We're doing work like no others do. We're giving you a very in-depth look right now into Memorial Day in Israel, where you memorialize those who have died, 23,000. Now that may sound not like a big number, but per capita, when you look at 600,000 Jews in Israel in 1948, and you start seeing the percentage lost per each war or operation, these are huge numbers for a small population, yet the unity and solidarity of the country, left, right, like good labor, all that stuff goes out the window in solidarity for standing up for those who died. And that Independence Day, which occurred in May 1948, May 14th, is the event being celebrated in just a few minutes, the beginning of it in Israel. We're 7 hours behind. But a very important historic fact here that I want to bring out. The Holocaust is inconceivable. The Nazi Holocaust is inconceivable in human thinking, though as the world is going nowadays, it looks like you give these same individuals, same ideology and Islamic Jihad, big weapons, they'd be happy to quadruple the number of humans killed in the Holocaust, the number of Jews killed. They'd be happy to strap an A-bomb on their back and blow up Tel Aviv, blow up New York, whatever. They'd be happy to do that. Yes. So the inconceivable component of the Nazi Holocaust is excitement to the jihadis and the Islamic State and people like that. But one of the historic developments after World War II, the British had a white paper. It's called the White Paper of 1939. And that white paper banned Jews from returning to Israel, because it wasn't in the British mandate's mind, Israel. It was British-controlled land that had Arabs in it. So there was official law in Britain that limited the number of Jews that can return to their own homeland. It was a very small number that were allowed each year, and then there was a total ban. Well, the White Paper of 1939, that's what it's called, the White Paper of 1939, was rescinded after the atrocities of the Holocaust, and everyone saw, hey, Jewish people should have their own land. Maybe this mess wouldn't have happened. And through the end of World War II to 1948, as Arie just explained, the political processes occurred. But on the hour that David Ben-Gurion declared Israel, the state of Jewish people, war broke out with the Arab countries with advanced weaponry, with airplanes and tanks and automatic weapons, fighting Jews with pitchforks and BB guns, basically. That's the celebration today in Israel, that they won their independence. They got their independence, fought, and have been continuing to fight for it. Mark, yeah,
and the Muslims, the Arabs over there, call that day, they have a special name for it.
Yeah.
What is that name, Tom?
Nakba Day. The Nakba, meaning the tragedy.
The tragedy. And so they celebrate it. The Muslims celebrate that day in a very different way. They celebrate it as a day of tragedy. I mean, what else?
Yeah,
what
and
else
Arie just said when the sirens blew at 11 o'clock, Muslims yelling Allahu Akbar against obviously this, but we know that's the way it is. So
also about the Holocaust Day. A very old Holocaust refugee died a week ago, and he doesn't have any relatives anywhere in the world. And someone put it on Facebook. Hundreds of people came to his funeral in Tel Aviv. Hundreds of people who didn't know him came to his funeral. I think that this shows something about a country like Israel, the solidarity and the special values that we have.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely amazing, that solidarity. We're going to show you a couple of pictures from our recent mission to Israel that you helped with tremendously. And Damon, if you can explain what we're looking at. In particular, Arie mentioned Operation Protective Edge. If we can show some of the slides from our Gaza border expedition, we can put that into current context. Then I want to move to some of the threats faced by Israel today, particularly from Iran.
Okay, here is a farmhouse very close to the Gaza border. It's actually a privately held farm, not a communal kibbutz. We went to lunch there, I believe shortly after we saw Arie, if I'm not mistaken. And this was a family that moved there, I believe, in the 60s. And they have like a 1,000-acre farm, and they really took good care of us. There we are, literally on their farm, a big group shot of all of us, and it's Gaza. You know, it's hard to tell from that picture. I'll get to one where we could actually see the border. There's one of the women holding some pictures of when her family first settled that area. And this is a woman who said that for years and years and years they employed Arab Israelis, or, you know, quote, Palestinians on the farm, and then it's, you know, just recently gotten to the point where it's, you know, unattainable to actually do stuff like that. Here's a couple more pictures, the group on the farm there. This is also, we were in with getting a speaking to by a woman on the kibbutz. Now, this is a different area. And we heard gunshots going off in the middle of Adele speaking to us, and I went next door. I mean,
rapid fire, boom, 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 boom.
And so I hopped out of the room where we were being spoken to, and I went to their indoor-outdoor and met Moshe, this guy right here, who was an instructor of martial arts and firearms training. And he has people, there's Adele right there. And this gentleman teaches, like I said, physical combat and firearms training to not only the people on this kibbutz, but from kibbutzes all around the Gaza area.
And this one is right on the Gaza border. Do we have there? Go back to the bomb shelter.
There's one of the bomb shelters on the kibbutz there.
Yeah, think about this, ladies and gentlemen. It is required to have a bomb shelter in your house, and all the bus stations are bomb shelters. Think about that. Think about this is who your enemies are. These are the ones. These are the people that want to kill you. And so Israel, instead of being aggressive and trying to take these people out, over time have built bomb shelters as a defensive measure rather than being, you know.
And the next slide.
There's
that's
a story behind that.
Yeah, this is Arie. You know this very well. Arie took me to this site in November of last year, and we returned on our mission just recently. This was an electrical tower that was hit by a mortar in Operation Protective Edge over the 55-day war in June, July, August. And several of the men on this kibbutz went out to repair it. And when they did, a mortar size of a Coke bottle, a 32-ounce Coke bottle. I think the next slide shows the tree. Yeah, that's shrapnel from the mortar that fell. The three men were standing next to that tree. The one closest to where the mortar hit the ground had both his legs blown off. The other two, because the mortar goes in an up, the shrapnel goes in an up pattern, got hit in the chest and neck and head, and both of them subsequently died. And I think the next slide may show the actual, that's a wider shot. But let's get back to Arie for a second. There, that fence is on the kibbutz. On the other side of the fence, the IDF put that fence up during Operation Protective Edge. The other side of that fence is still Israel kibbutz property. It literally goes right up to the border of Gaza, but the IDF said it's too hot right now. We're making sort of a demilitarized zone. And it goes about a quarter of a mile of distance before you get into Gaza. And this is the state of affairs right now. And these people are ready for warnings and sirens. This is how Jews live today on Independence Day in Israel. Arie, what are some of the threats that we looked at 1948, we looked at Operation Protective Edge at 46 minutes after the hour. Let's now look forward at some of the threats you see in your work, Israel's Homeland Security Home, your website, your national security work. What are some of the threats you see on the horizon for Israel that need to be faced?
I'll tell you a story from recent days. President Putin of Russia has taken the veto of the sale of S-300 missiles to Iran after many years that he refused to sell it to Iran. And what surprises me is that the President Obama said that he is surprised that Putin waited so long with taking off the embargo on the sale. This is an amazing reaction to such a sale. A country that openly says that it wants to destroy Israel. The Russians supply them with long-range ground-to-air missiles, and something is completely wrong in the balance of power between the U.S., Russia, and Iran. And another thing, Saudi Arabia is now looking for a new version of long-range ballistic missiles. They have an old type of Chinese-made ballistic missiles. They are afraid of Iran. They know that Iran one day will try to either to take them over or to hit them and to take the oil fields. So this thing is not over. And only a thing from yesterday, can you tell me, Poland wanted to buy air defense missiles. Poland talked with Israel about David Sling, the system that a week ago completed a very successful series of tests and is now considered the best air defense system in the world. Washington said to Israel, you do not sell this system to Poland, and yesterday it was announced that the US is selling Patriot missiles to Poland. So if these are allies, if these are friends, this is a new definition of allies. You cannot on one side say that we don't understand why Putin delayed the sale of S-300 missiles to Iran. On the other hand, block the way of the Israeli industry to sell air defense missile to another country, and at the same time sell the same system to Poland. Something is very confused. It doesn't make any sense. Can you explain what's going on?
Yeah, we can explain very simply. President Obama is not a friend of Israel. I hope every Jewish donor in the United States hears that very, very clearly. President Obama is a slick snake oil salesman and loves selling snake oil to Jewish donors when he goes and wows them at their various events. If Jewish donors were to stop funding the Democrat Party, the left, and President Obama, then maybe things would change a little bit. And we see a little bit of rethinking in the Jewish community in America, which is about 7 million people. You got 7 million Jewish people in Israel, about 7 million here, then a few million scattered around, 15, 16 million Jews worldwide. More people live in Florida, ladies and gentlemen, 19 million people, than all the Jews in the whole world. If those who are supporting President Obama and his hateful policies toward Israel would stop, that would help. But President Obama is not a friend of Israel. We know that. I want to look, Arie, for a second at the technical capabilities of this S-300 missile, because on the table, by President Obama's own admission, all military options are on the table. The Soviets just sold or selling to Iran missile capability that could hurt U.S. attack on the nuke infrastructure in Iran. Damon, there was a slide there that talked about the technical capabilities of the S-300. Can you highlight that, and then we'll get a little more input from Arie, who works in this industry, to see how horrible of a decision this is to supply Iran with this technology.
Okay, designations. The Russian military's S-300P. It's medium to long-range surface-to-air missile systems. Special features: vertical launch, 2 missiles launched on 1 target. Short deployment, redeployment time. The range is between 5 and 150 kilometers. Altitude between 10 and 27,000 meters. Speed of targets engaged up to 1,800 meters per second. Number of targets tracked up to 12. Number of targets engaged up to 6. Deployment, redeployment time 5 minutes each. And number of missiles in a complex is up to 48.
All right, Arie, what does this...
This is a very advanced surface-to-air missile system, and the Iranians will deploy the batteries around their nuclear sites. That's why they need the system. And when and if someone will attack these sites, these missiles can cause a lot of problems to any Air Force who will be sent to try and hit the underground nuclear facilities of Iran. So I don't see the logic of Washington saying, okay, we don't understand how he waited so far, President Putin, instead of saying, hey, stop and rethink. As Putin said, when the American wanted to put some anti-ballistic missile system in Europe, Putin said, no way, no in Poland, no in Czech, and the Washington had to change its plans. When Putin is lifting now the embargo, Washington is collapsing, is not even trying to show some resistance.
No,
I don't get it. I really don't get it.
It's a mess. It's a serious mess, and I think it lends to the. It's not a theory anymore. It lends to the fact that Putin is not a real great friend of the United States of America, nor is he a great friend of Israel. He plays both sides of the street also, and his narrative, his statement on this is, oh, this is purely defensive. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't put Iran in any sort of position to attack Israel or anyone else. It's a defensive weapon. And that's such a silly argument that we don't even have to address that. But this is bad. Take a minute, Arie, and kind of sketch out what's happening down a little bit south of you, below Saudi Arabia, off the coast of Yemen with the U.S. battle group and the 8 freighters, the Iranian freighters. What's your sense there? And then I want to get back to Memorial and Independence Day.
The situation there, as you say, down below Israel is very, very bad. Again, like the coalition against ISIS, the operations against the terror groups who are operating there is not enough. They are doing whatever they want in Yemen, in other places, and it's chaos there. It's total chaos there. And with the support of Iran, they get massive shipments of equipment. I think that Iran is opening all its old and new arsenals and just ship it to the area. And the steps taken by the U.S. by sending an aircraft carrier or some corvettes is not enough. It's simply not enough. These are symbolic, very, very not in very. It's nothing. It's a joke. It's a bad joke to send one ship and try. These people know the areas. They know how to sneak behind the American forces, behind the aircraft carriers, behind the corvettes, and the situation there is total chaos. And it's not a problem only to the Gulf states. It's a problem to Europe. It's a problem to Israel. It's a problem to the U.S. If you look at the map, if you see on the seaways that in the area, all the oceans and seas there that service the international maritime commercial business. If these areas are controlled by terror groups like ISIS and Al Qaeda, this is very bad, not only for Israel, not only for Saudi Arabia. And I don't understand why the US is not taking more aggressive steps to try and stop it. And this is, again, a big mystery to me.
Big mystery,
and
indeed.
if you look at that little area right off of Yemen, right there.
Yeah, right down here.
Right down there. It's only 18 miles wide, and the shipping lanes are only 4 miles
wide.
Oh,
you mean down here where
and if you clog that
the Gulf of Aden, sure.
And if they clog that up, it's 2 miles wide each direction, and they could easily clog that up just like they would the Straits of Hormuz right up by
right
Qatar,
up over here, yeah.
right up through there.
And that's where the USS Cole was hit in, I believe it was 2000, yes. In October. All right, Arie, we've on our show today, we have taken a look at 1948, some of the Life magazine's Time Life pictures to see the beginning of the reconstituted state of Israel, May 14, 1948, what life was like. And a bunch of Jewish people simply coming out of the Holocaust, coming out of World War II, simply wanted to turn a desolate brown place into a land of milk and honey and make it green, which it is today. Immediately the Arabs attacked, have not since then. You fought in what war? You were born in Israel. What wars did you fight in, Arie?
In 73, and yes, and I think that our children and grandchildren will also have to fight and in some way, because I don't see peace on the horizon. No,
all right, well, let me ask you this.
Not any sign for peace.
You fought in the Yom Kippur War, 1973.
Yes.
A war that wasn't going too well, and then all of a sudden turns around. With that background, with being born there and your family there and all the work you're doing, national security, what right now in Israel is looks like Independence Day is right around the corner. What does it mean to you personally as you sit back and reflect upon Independence Day as somebody who has given your life for this country up to this point?
As I told you, it's a day that symbolizes for religious people, non-religious people, the fact that Israel is a democratic, very advanced states surrounded by countries who the main motive is hatred. Hatred and hatred and hatred. Israel wants to live in peace. Israel wants to give the knowledge that is being developed here to the world. And it has done so in many, many aspects, in medicine, in science, in agriculture. And just think always what will happen if those surrounding countries will leave Israel alone, and all the resources of Israel will go to science, to agriculture, to medicine. This will bring the world big achievements, but I don't see it coming in the foreseeable future, because the hatred now toward Israel, toward Jews, is even bigger than 5 or 10 years ago. It's in Europe.
Exactly.
It's in all the Arab countries that surround us, and with this terror organization, a crazy terror organization, who day after day behead people, rape women, kill children, throw people from rooftops. Israel will have to be strong for many, many years, and to take care of itself, confronting all the threats that we are facing and will face in the future.
And let me assure you, we're out of time now, but let me assure you that though Israel may not have many friends worldwide, here in the United States of America, you have many, many, many friends. Arie Egozie, have a wonderful Independence Day. We'll be in touch next week, if not sooner, if the facts on the ground require it. You be safe, take care, and we appreciate all you do.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, bye-bye.
All right, folks, see you tomorrow.
No.